Hope you had a great 4th of July weekend. Now let's redraft the first round on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5. As always, make sure to follow and stream us on Spotify. Today is Monday, July 5th. I am Frank Stanfield, joined by Scott White. And Scott recently wrote an article on the website redrafting the first 2 rounds for the rest of the season. Today, we're just going to focus on that first round, and we'll do this in trios. So let's start with picks 1 through 3. Pretty standard here, Scott. Ronald Acuna, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. over Fernando Tatis. And then Tatis, you have third there. So why Vlad over Tatis?
Yeah, that's a tough one. It'd certainly be the case in points leagues. In Roto traditional 5x5 leagues, I might be harder to pass up Tatis at number 2 overall. But the concern is obviously his shoulder, right? Back in April, we thought he suffered a major shoulder injury, was out for the season, and since then we've had these kind of semi-monthly freakouts about him leaving the game because that shoulder's acting up again, and you just worry the other shoe's going to drop. Like if that was off the table, if that wasn't a consideration, Tatis would probably be number 1 because his 150 game pace is something like 60 homers, 40 steals. I mean, even in head-to-head points leagues, his per game production is the highest of any hitter.
Yeah. If we were drafting for next season already, and we already knew that he was going to be 100% healthy, I think you're right. He probably is the first overall pick, but we're redrafting for the rest of this season. That moves Tatis down to the 3rd overall pick. Picks 4 through 6, we have Jacob deGrom, the first starting pitcher off the board. Stands alone, obviously. Juan Soto, 5th overall. And Shohei Ohtani comes in at 6. Scott, did you toy with the idea of moving Ohtani ahead of Juan Soto?
Not really. I have a lot of confidence in Soto bouncing back. His expected numbers are still amazing. He still looks like one of the best hitters in baseball. I think actually in the second half, he's going to challenge Vladimir Guerrero for best pure hitter. You know, if you're leaving steals out of it with Acuna and Tatis, still makes a ton of contact, gets on base, hitting the ball hard. I think he's going to be great still. Ohtani, of course, has proven a lot this year in terms of him being an everyday hitter for the first time, literally every day, and still pitching well. Of course, the pitching doesn't matter so much because you're going to want to start him as a hitter. The reason I have him this high finally is because his June was by far his best month. As good as he was in April and May, the June was by far the best. So I don't worry so much about him wearing down over the course of the season now. I think he's going to remain strong despite the very heavy, unprecedented workload.
And as great as Vlad Jr. has been, I think Shohei Ohtani, the leading candidate for the AL MVP at this point in the season. Picks 7 through 9, Trey Turner, Mookie Betts, and Jose Ramirez. Scott, Mookie Betts kind of stands out like a sore thumb here because he's struggled this season, but we don't really know why. Do you have any suspicions as to what's going on with Mookie Betts?
It's been difficult to suss out. I mean, obviously there was the change in the baseball earlier at the start of the season, the deadened baseball, and it not carrying as far. And Mookie Betts isn't somebody who's known for hitting massive, long home runs, you know? So I worried about that at first, but the environment's been changing, you know, spin rates dropping for pitchers, the weather heating up. I don't expect, even if that was a factor early on, I don't suspect it is much now. And a lot of the underlying numbers look pretty normal for Mookie Betts. There's nothing that seems like it's that far off. So I have a lot of confidence in him still. And of course, at his best, he's a 5-category contributor who also has great plate discipline.
All right, let's wrap up with picks 10 through 12 here. We see more pitching off the board. Yu Darvish, Max Scherzer, and then Freddie Freeman, who, a lot like Mookie Betts, has gotten off to a slow start this year, though he's come around the past couple of weeks. So I don't really have any concern over Freddie Freeman. Scott, to me, what stands out, no Gerrit Cole in the first round. You now have moved Yu Darvish and Max Scherzer ahead of him.
Yeah, well, it's less about moving them ahead as dropping Gerrit Cole behind, because his strikeout rate, his swinging strike rate, they're at best above average since the spin rates began to drop for him. And I do have him in my second round. If you go look at the article, for the most part, his starts have been good. Since the spin rates began dropping, there've been a lot more home runs. They haven't been great starts. Try not to overreact to that, but I think this is an appropriate reaction, because that's That's a big change for somebody like him who succeeded so much with the fastball and it, being able to elevate it, so to speak, getting hitters to swing under it, and losing that many RPMs off of it seems to be having an effect on him. Darvish's spin rate has dropped. Even Scherzer's spin rate has dropped some, but they've held steady in terms of performance. And of course, both of them have great track records too. They're way behind DeGrom. Clearly, I have them, 10th and 11th, and DeGrom's up at 4th. So there's a big gap there between number 1 and number 2 and 3 now. But I think I have more confidence in Darvish and Scherzer than I do in Gerrit Cole moving forward.
Can't argue with that based on what's going on right now in the game. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, your smart speakers, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. If you enjoyed the pod, please leave a 5-star review on Apple. We'll be back again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.